Imagine driving a car built not for luxury, not for speed, but to survive the end of the world. A car so secret, so heavily armored, that it was designed to keep running even if a nuclear bomb exploded nearby. Forget James Bond gadgets, this was real. Hidden in the vaults of Cold War history lies a machine that was never meant for the public, a car built to survive Armageddon. This is the story of the Cold War survivor car, the Doomsday automobile with a nuclear-proof heart. To understand why this car even existed, you have to go back to the 1950s, an era when fear wasn't just in the newspapers, it was in people's daily lives. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a terrifying standoff, each sitting on stockpiles of nuclear weapons capable of destroying the world several times over. Sirens and duck-and-cover drills became part of everyday school routines. Families dug fallout shelters in their backyards, stocked with canned food and water, convinced that survival might depend on seconds of preparation. But governments had a bigger problem. If Washington, D.C. was targeted in a nuclear strike, how could the president and top officials escape? Helicopters, though fast, could be disabled by the electromagnetic pulse of a detonation. Underground bunkers were safe but stationary, useless if leaders needed to stay mobile. And regular cars? They would crumple, melt, or shut down instantly under the shockwave and radiation. That's when a radical idea took shape. What if there was a vehicle so tough, so resilient, that it could keep moving even in the aftermath of a nuclear blast? Engineers quietly began designing a machine unlike anything the world had seen. A car built not for luxury or speed, but for survival at the end of the world. At the center of this secret project sat an engine, and not just any engine. They chose the massive Cadillac V8, a powerhouse of American engineering, but this wasn't the same motor you'd find cruising down Main Street. It was reimagined, shielded, and hardened for the apocalypse. Engineers wrapped the ignition system with layers of lead and copper shielding, creating an electromagnetic armor so that even a devastating EMP wouldn't fry the electronics. The fuel system was equally ingenious. It was designed to function through extreme pressure shifts, able to pull in air and gasoline even when the atmosphere was literally ripped apart by a blast wave. In testing scenarios, the engine was expected to keep running in environments where no conventional car could even be restarted. This wasn't about horsepower figures or top speed. In fact, nobody cared if it was slower than a sports car. What mattered was resilience. Could it start when everything else failed? Could it keep moving while roads burned and skies filled with radioactive dust? In that sense, this V8 wasn't just an engine. It was a heartbeat, one meant to keep America's leaders alive when the rest of the world had gone silent. If the engine was the heart of this doomsday car, its body was the armor. The shell wasn't built for style or aerodynamics, but for survival. Reinforced steel several inches thick formed the skeleton of the vehicle, turning it into a mobile fortress. The doors were lined with lead, heavy enough to take 2 men to swing open, but crucial for blocking lethal radiation in the aftermath of a strike. Inside, a sealed air filtration system pumped in clean, breathable air while fallout rained down outside, a system closer to what you'd expect on a submarine or a military tank. The suspension, often overlooked in normal cars, was a masterpiece of over-engineering. It had to carry not just the crushing weight of steel and lead, but also remain flexible enough to absorb the violent shockwave from a nearby explosion without snapping apart. And the details didn't stop there. The windows weren't made of fragile glass but of thick, laminated polycarbonate slabs, heat-resistant, shatterproof, and built to withstand debris hurled by an atomic blast. The tires were military-grade run flats, reinforced to keep rolling even when punctured or partially destroyed. From the outside, the vehicle resembled a stretched Cadillac limousine, elegant enough to avoid suspicion, but hiding a terrifying level of protection. From the inside, though, it was less of a car and more of a rolling bunker. To step inside was to step into a machine built to drive through the end of the world. These Doomsday cars weren't designed for celebrities or tycoons. They had one purpose: the survival of government itself. In the event of a nuclear strike, the president, top generals, and a select circle of officials were to be rushed into these vehicles and driven to hidden strongholds like Mount Weather in Virginia or Raven Rock in Pennsylvania. Bunkers dug deep into mountains, built in to keep the government running in secrecy. The cars never traveled alone. Convoys were mapped out in advance, shielded by armored personnel carriers and military escorts. Even if cities were burning, these vehicles had to carve a path through chaos, preserving command and control of the nation. Some were even tested under simulated blast conditions, exposed to shock waves to see how much punishment they could endure. Engineers studied scorched panels and rattled suspensions, refining the design for survival. And then comes the mystery. The government never released numbers. Were there only a few prototypes or entire fleets hidden around Washington, ready for a day that, thankfully, never came? By the 1970s, as missile technology advanced, the idea of escaping a direct strike in a car became less realistic. Aircraft like Air Force One and hardened bunkers replaced the need for nuclear cars. Slowly, the Doomsday vehicles were decommissioned, dismantled, or hidden away in storage facilities. But their legacy lived on. The armored presidential limousines you see today, the Beast, for example, trace their roots back to these Cold War survivors. EMP shielding, radiation protection, sealed air systems, all concepts born from the nuclear panic of the 1950s. What was once built for apocalypse now quietly protects world leaders every single day. The Cold War car that could survive a nuclear blast wasn't just a vehicle. It was a symbol of the times, a reminder of how close the world came to destruction, and how human ingenuity prepared for even the most unthinkable scenarios. We may never know how many of these cars were truly built, or if some still sit in hidden government hangars. But one thing is certain: this was no ordinary automobile. It was the ultimate survivor, the car designed to drive through the end of the world. So the next time you see a presidential limo rolling slowly down Pennsylvania Avenue, remember, its DNA comes from a machine built not for luxury, not for speed, but for survival.